Hi, so we are the cardiovascular group. I'm Kayla Baggett.
I'm Taylor Stenbratton. Rhonda Bleeker.
Emma Davis.
Melanie Billinghurst.
All right, so we are just going to go ahead and start our presentation. Starting here, so the overview. The cardiovascular system consists of the heart, the blood vessels, and approximately 5 liters of blood that the blood vessels transport. Responsible for transporting oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and cellular waste products throughout the body. The cardiovascular system is powered by the body's hard-working organ, the heart, which is only about the size of a closed fist, which I thought was interesting.
All right, the major structure of the cardiovascular system is the heart, which consists of 4 chambers, 4 valves, and supporting structures. So for your 4 chambers, you have your right atrium, your left atrium, your right ventricle, and your left ventricle. Your 4 valves, you have your tricuspid valve, your pulmonary valve, your mitral valve, and your aortic valve. And your supporting structures are your superior and inferior vena cava, and your left pulmonary artery, your left pulmonary vein, and your aorta. For each of these structures, your right atrium, pretty much all of the blood is dumped into your right atrium, and that is the receiving component of that from the body. Your right ventricle is, the main function is to pull the blood from the right atrium, and then it is pumped into the lungs when the heart contracts. Your left atrium is the quote-unquote function, is the dumping of the blood from the lungs, which is your oxygenated blood. And your left ventricle is your quote-unquote pumping throughout the rest of the body as it goes up into the air. The valves of the heart, you have 2 different kinds of valves. You have a bicuspid valve, which has 2 cusps, which is like your mitral valve right here. That's the only kind of valve in the heart of this type. You also have a semilunar valve, which consists of 3 cusps, which is your pulmonary valve, your aortic valve, and your tricuspid valve. The functions of these 4 valves, your mitral valve is in between your left atrium and your left ventricle. Your tricuspid valve is in between your right atrium and your right ventricle. And your aortic valve is in between your left ventricle and your aorta. And your pulmonary valve is in between your right ventricle and your left pulmonary vein.
All right, circulation of the heart. The blood is brought to the heart via the superior and inferior vena cava, right atrium, tricuspid valve, right ventricle, pulmonary valve, and pulmonary artery. The blood then goes to the lungs. Then the blood goes back to the heart via the left pulmonary vein. And then finally the blood travels to the left atrium, the mitral valve, left ventricle, aortic valve, aorta, into the body's vascular system. We have a couple loops that we will go over. The first one is the pulmonary loop. The circulation of blood to and from the lungs. Unoxygenated blood from the right ventricle flows through the right and left pulmonary arteries to the right and left lungs. After entering the lungs, the branches subdivide, finally emerging as capillaries, which surround the alveoli and release the carbon dioxide in exchange for a fresh supply of oxygen. The capillaries unite gradually and assume the characteristics of veins. These veins join to form the pulmonary veins, which return the oxygenated blood to the left atrium. And then for the systemic loop, the blood flows from the left ventricle through the aorta and all of its arteries to the capillaries of the tissues, and it's returned to the heart through veins in the vena cava, which empty into the right atrium. And this is just showing that On the red side, we have oxygenated blood, and the blue side is deoxygenated blood, melon flow.
The coronary circulation is the right and the left coronary arteries that supply the heart with blood. And the left coronary artery supplies the left side of the heart, and it branches into the left anterior descending artery and the circumflex artery, which goes around the side. And the right coronary artery supplies the right side of the heart, and it branches into the right posterior descending artery and the acute marginal artery.
Alright, next we're going to talk about the blood vessels, which is a supporting structure of the cardiovascular system. It's kind of how the blood gets to the other areas of the body. So first you have your arteries, which the aorta is an artery, and that carries blood away from the heart to the body. Arteries are characterized as being strong, flexible, and resilient, and they have high pressure within them. And the muscular walls can adjust in diameter to increase or decrease blood flow. Arteries branch off into smaller, which eventually become arterioles. Then arterioles become capillaries, which are thin, teeny, thin-walled vessels, and they're kind of the bridge between arteries and veins. This is the place for oxygen and nutrient exchange and also waste excretion. From capillaries, you get venules, which are teeny tiny veins, and then the venules become veins. In general, veins have thinner walls than arteries, and there's a lot lower pressure in there, and they carry deoxygenated blood back to the heart. Veins can dilate with an increase in the fluid, and some veins have valves to prevent the backflow of blood.
Okay, and we'll talk about the blood a little bit. The red blood cells contain special protein called hemoglobin, which helps carry the oxygen from the lungs to the rest of the body, and then returns carbon dioxide from the body to the lungs so it can be exhaled. And the white blood cells, their main function is to protect the body from infection.